Welcome to Beyond the Frontline podcast, where your host, U.S. Air Force veteran Donna Hoffmeyer, will help you transition from the front line to the home front. Listen every other Wednesday as we'll bring great conversations, resources, tips, and feel-good stories that will resonate and relate. Now, here's your host, Donna Hoffmeyer.
Hey everyone, it's Donna with another awesome episode of Beyond the Front Line. And this week, I want to talk about therapeutic racing. I don't even know if those words go together. I just made that up. But we actually have somebody on today that started a nonprofit, has to do with racing, and he's opening this up to veterans. And I think they're even talking about maybe first responders in the future, but they're opening this up to help veterans with transition and assimilating into the civilian community. So that's what we're going to get into today. And I got to tell you a little backstory is that I met Chris, who is the founder of CWR Warriors. I met him at a breakfast, a veteran breakfast. And Chris and I just started talking, and we have never stopped talking. And so we were joking before this that we were going to do this in 30 minutes, and we both laughed because it may not happen because we have a lot to talk about. So I want to introduce you and give a little short background because he's very humble. And when I asked for his bio, it literally reads 2 sentences and nothing about him. But Chris, he's giggling. Chris Carroll is an entrepreneur and founder of CWR Warriors, which empowers veterans through teamwork, building and racing cars. They foster a supportive community to help them rediscover purpose and thrive after service. So, Chris, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Donna. It's been a wonder since we've met. So I've just been I can't get enough. Let's just go.
I know. Well, we have like minds, and that's what makes us good, bad,
Right.
dangerous, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
But I really took to you because I really loved what you were doing. But I'm going to back it up and I want a quick summary of how, because you're not a veteran. That's the first thing to point out is that you're not a veteran.
Right. No, ma'am, I'm not, but it runs deep for me. Just give you the veteran side of it. What put me towards the veterans? What drove me towards a veteran is because about 16 or 17 years ago, I don't even know. I stopped counting with my dad. We were in the VA hospital, and he was 100% cancer free, and they called him up and said, "Ron, we're going to do one more treatment." And I asked my dad when he told me that. I said, "Why?" I mean, because my mom had already passed away from cancer. I know what the markers look like. I know what everything there is to know about this cancer gene that we got in our family. And I'm like, "Why, Dad? That's just bad advice." And he goes, "No, the doctor says we're going in." I said, "Okay." 2 weeks later, my father was dead in the VA hospital. He literally died in the VA hospital. What happened was they put him back in there. His immune system was down. They gave him another shot, a round of chemo. He got a staph infection, went to the brain and killed him. Yep. And so I jokingly, because I recreated a shirt that says "Got Freedom. Thank you for your American forces," and I jokingly, my sister bought these shirts because we were in the hospital for 3 days, and she said, "You need a clean shirt," so she bought me that shirt. I still have that shirt today. It hangs in my closet. I work on my race car in that shirt. I wouldn't suggest looking at it because it's kind of nasty and disgusting. But that's what drove me towards the veteran community, because I started looking at it, and then I moved into San Antonio. We're around it quite a bit, and man, how hard it was, prior to get treatment to start with, and that was, that they've since fixed some of that, but it's still not right.
So your dad is a veteran. He was
Yes,
Vietnam.
ma'am. He was in the Navy, Vietnam Navy. Yeah.
Vietnam.
And we jokingly say that he understood the brig more than he understood the Navy.
Oh, he was one of those Navy.
Yes, he was. He bucked the system well, and that's where I get it from, and that's why I do what I do, is because I'm very good at bucking the system. But in in a nicer way sometimes and sometimes not,
Well,
So
your background lends to it. So you're an entrepreneur.
yeah,
So you have run multiple
multiple
companies.
companies, yes,
And what
yes. And
what are the different companies you've run?
I've owned, let's see, over the last 30 years, I have owned Sign Shop, which it is still running today, which is CM Graphics and Signs. It's out of McAllen, Texas. I have owned construction companies, which I still own. Carroll Construction was my original company that I started back in 1995, 1994, 95. I have owned a trucking company, which they're still running the trucking company still today. I've owned a bar, Huckleberries, because I wanted a music venue down in the valley, and they didn't have any country music venues down there that just played nothing but country music. So I said, okay, I'm going to start one. I started it and ended up. I realized real quick that I could not handle cigarette smoke, and I got pneumonia 3 times, so I shut that one down. And but
That's how you learn.
then I've owned my race team. I've owned my race team for around 30 years, and it's never profited really. So it's not, it's just more of a way for me to unwind and get out of the system. But I realize that I'm really competitive, and my passion is racing, and that's what started the CW Warriors thing about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. I decided to retire. And after a month or two of retirement out of the racing with no race cars in the garage, I sold everything. I woke up in a cold sweat and just said, that is silly to waste 30 years of your life. And what can I do in this industry that makes sense? And my thought process was to give back. My dad raced cars with me. I got him into racing. It wasn't the other way around. I got him into racing and he raced cars with me. And so I thought it was a perfect fit to honor our veterans and my father and that with a race team. So
That is awesome. And you just actually kind of said when I was joking about therapeutic racing, it's
correct.
what you just said that kind of validates that, which is like, I just did that to unwind, to relax. Like that was
Correct.
your hobby. That wasn't, you didn't want it as a business. You did that to go unwind and relax. So now you see that, and then
Yep.
you compile your background as an entrepreneur, knowing how to start businesses
Right.
and your racing knowledge, and then the want to give back to the veteran side because of your dad. And here comes
CWR
our
Warriors.
Warriors, right?
Yeah.
Here it comes.
And CWR Warriors, it's Carroll Walker Racing. That's what CWR Warriors. So Walker was my crew chief for years and years and years, and we started CW Racing because we had to bring sponsors in. We had to, and you have to once you bring that sponsor in, guess what? It becomes a business. And
Oh
so
yes.
we had to do this, and so we did it. And me and Jeff, when I said I was going to turn our race team into a nonprofit, he's like 100%. It's without a doubt it because he stopped racing too. He quit and he just worked on my cars and his kids' cars and he just had no reason. And now there's pictures of him on the website. I think he's 60 years old. He built another car so he could go out and race with the veterans. And his dad was also, I'm not sure if his dad was a veteran, but I know his grandfather was. But it just it gave him a new leash on life, helping these guys. And
Yeah.
he's just loving it. I mean, it's just crazy. So it had all transpired.
So
So
tell me, what kind of cars do you race?
we race dirt modifieds, which I should have sent you a picture. I'm bad at that. So, but if you get on
I'll
our
get one
website,
from you. We got time.
yeah, if you get on our website, CWRwarriors.org, you can see the race team in the cars and different things. And we're not. My goal here is to have a veteran on every race team in the United States
Well, that's what I
because what
yeah, set up. Tell us the setup. Like, what does this look like in the nonprofit? Like, how do you
in
utilize the
in
veterans?
in the nonprofit, what we do is we have a race shop here. We have, we can house up to 4 or 5 race teams in this shop. So what we do is the week leading up to the races, we bring the guys into the shop, the guys that have shown interest, and we work on the race car together. Then we take them and their families to the racetrack. And then we race the car as a team. And we lose as a team, and we win as a team, and we fight as a team. We do everything that racing has to offer, which is a lot, because there is highs and lows in the racing industry. I've been in it so long, the lows I don't even get affected by the lows. And I think that's what the great thing about the racing is that you have it's no participation trophies. There's no participation trophies. Either you perform or you don't. So it's a lot of fun, but they're dirt modifieds. They're 100% built cars. There's nothing really stock about them. They don't look like a regular car, and the veterans have a ball. So
Do you
we
race?
have one family. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
We have one family, and we call it we tease with them and said it's the rolling circus. They have an RV, and they would bring their 4 daughters out, and the wife, and a German Shepherd, and 2 parrots every race last year.
Oh my
And
gosh.
he doesn't know anything about racing, but he loves CW Warriors, and he cooks for our team. That's part of his thing. That's his therapy.
Oh, what is he a
And
veteran? He's a veteran, right?
yes,
Yeah.
he's
Okay.
a veteran. Yeah, and he's a veteran. That's what I'm saying is that he found us at one of our events, and he put the effort in, and he's not a guy that I can put on camera and say go. He's just enjoying CWR Warriors, and that's what it was intended for. And if he has a problem, he texts me at least 3 to 5 times a week, and shows me his workout program. And if something's going on, he contacts me, and he utilizes the system that we have, and it just makes you want to grow it more, because if one guy does that, 100 guys can do that. So
you and I have had this conversation too, right? What a lot of people don't see behind the scenes is that yes, we're working our business or our nonprofit. Like we have to do the social media, we have to do the podcast, we have to put ourselves out there, which believe it or not, majority of us are not a fan of. Like, it's not
right.
really like, this is not why we started this, is to like, look at me,
No.
like we're all like, can somebody else do that? It's not our thing, but we also know that if we want to grow it, we have to do it. But what people don't necessarily understand is that while we're doing that, because we have to, we're there helping all the way down to the individual person. You've called me and been like, Donna, I got a situation. And and I'm, like you and I have talked, and my goal is to get some veterans out there to you to, start working on that. You're actually going to come speak at one of our breakfasts. I mean, and I say this, this isn't a braggadocious statement. It's to people understand is that we are in the background working together, like trying to make this work all the way down to the individual. I mean, when we get one person that really needs the help, we're on the phone with everybody that we know that's running another nonprofit that has some kind of resource.
Absolutely.
That is why we do what we do.
And this is an information deal, right? So if we don't have, as a nonprofit, if we don't have a big network of people to reach out to, we can only help what we can help.
Right.
And with our network of people, with you, behind me, and a lot of other people behind us, I'm able to pick up the phone. Hey, I got a veteran that needs a job. Hey, I got a veteran,
Yes.
that he needs a pair of shoes, a jacket. It doesn't matter. If I don't have it to give, I've got somebody that I can try to reach out to and solve a problem, because it's about the veterans.
Right.
It really is. And we get lost in the business of this all the time. And I bring myself back. I go put that shirt on, because God freedom. I put that shirt on and I go work in my race shop.
Yeah. Keep your feet on the ground.
Right. And it brings me right back to where I'm supposed to be, and stop worrying about the day-to-day as much as the mission. And that's been a hard transition. But as a businessman, I'm used to buying my way into a solution.
Yes.
Guess what? I cannot buy my way into a solution on this deal.
No.
It has to be one person at a time, one call at a time, one-on-one. Me and you have talked about the marketing side of this a little bit earlier, and I, as a businessman, I can market all day long, twice on Sunday, but trying to get these veterans into my shop, into my office is the hardest part. For
Correct.
me to find money, believe it or not, is easier because for one,
Yes.
if for some reason I can't find the money that we need at the time, I'll fund it, and then I'll just write a note to the nonprofit. So it makes it easier for me because I can maneuver better that way.
I do the
But
same thing. Hmm.
absolutely, everybody that owns a
we
nonprofit
we
does.
all pay out of pocket. I mean, and that's where
Right,
you see a lot of nonprofits when they run out of that option, right? Like you're blessed because of your background and your businesses. I mean, just listening to your businesses that
right,
and what you said, which was, and that one's still running, and that one's still running.
right,
That that is that says something, right? Not that one went bankrupt and that one went bankrupt. So
right.
you have a success track record for the
Oh, yes,
business
ma'am.
side, but you're right. You can't sit there and wave that money and get a veteran to come in the door. That
Mm-mm. Uh,
and you made a
oh, it
comment to me.
can.
Well, it can, but not in an
Not
effective
legitimate,
manner.
not a legitimate
You
veterans.
said
Yeah,
something when we talked earlier, and you said, the ones that show up are the ones that are actually doing okay. And I'm like,
right,
yes. And the ones that, not that we don't want them to keep coming, because we do, because
right. No,
that's
we
what,
do. We want to keep them doing okay.
right. We want to keep them going. So we want them still coming, but it's the ones that we can't see that we know are the ones that really, really need to start coming and really need to be there. And so,
Right. And it starts with transitioning out, the day you get your papers, your walk-in papers, and you're out on the street, that's the day it needs to start. And that's the guys we need to get on top of right now. And so when me and Melanie and Melanie is my wife, for the viewers out there, she does not want to be on the board, but she guarantee you she puts in 60 hours a week for me on this nonprofit. So if you see success, it's because of my wife in the background, because she really does. She found passion in this by just virtue of doing it. And then, like I said, getting to see the guys, we didn't think we were really that successful last year. And so we put together numbers, and some of these numbers are, the same people, but through the events, there was 340 guys through the events, all the events that we went through.
for the
That's with the
racing.
family and the families, their families and everybody, but 340 different, people, or 340 people through the events. And then our car show, we had 2,500 people show up to that.
That was a good
And so,
turnout too.
yeah, it was. I was very happy with that. I
Yeah,
was
I went. My
ecstatic.
husband and I went, and it was a really good turnout. And I know the work that went behind that. Yeah.
Yeah, it, it was, and it really, it was a blur for me because it's just another day in what we do in business, right? So, I didn't really get to enjoy it the way I wanted to enjoy it, but I will as it grows, and it's going to get bigger. We've already talked about bigger venues and trying to figure out how to do that, but because we actually topped out, we were over what we were supposed to have there at that event. So,
Cool.
but it's really difficult for me not to, like you said, just to fund it all.
Right.
Because I wanted to go. I wanted to go. And but at the end of the day, my bookkeeper and one of our board members, which is the bookkeeper, he's like, no, 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 no. He keeps me in check on the money side of it. And because it's so, like I said, it's more about the mission,
Right.
and we can do a lot. We can do a lot with what we've already got and what we're doing, and so we're focusing more on the mission this year, than trying to fundraise as hard as we were, which we're still fundraising, but we're doing it in a smarter way, I think. So,
Yeah. Well, that's the hard part. You're very multi-hatted, right? And when you're
right.
starting, there's a lot of one-man band stuff going on, and volunteers are great. And when you
Absolutely.
find, and we're appreciative of every volunteer that wants to come offer whatever they can, but there's a learning curve to them on where
Yes.
their strengths are and where they work best and all that. So we have to compensate for that. And there's a lot behind it. So with CWR Warriors, you 340 people were touched
Right. And
directly
through,
by this.
well, if you would take it down to the aggregate, it's not 340. That was 342 at our events. And so some of the same people were at the events. So I would say probably, I don't have the number standing in front of me, but I would say around
Yeah,
160,
yeah, about half of them.
163. Yeah, about
But
half
that
of them.
shows
And
consistency, though, right? The
right,
fact that you have these people continuing, like I joke with the breakfast that you met me at, the one I used to
right,
run, I used to call it the rolling 30 because we
right,
always had 30 to about 30 people at each event. Well, you look at the roster cumulatively, it's over 200 names on it.
right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Whether
No,
you
and
hit them, no, go ahead.
go ahead. No, and that's what you want. You want to see the repeaters, but you want to see them bringing somebody to your event. You want to see that happen. You want to see it become a culture, and then when it becomes a culture, man, it's really easy to run. It goes smoother because you're not stressed about getting that culture built. You have a culture, and that's what your breakfast has done. Here in New Braunfels, or where are we at? Spring
Well,
Branch.
yours is Spring Branch,
So
yeah, and that's what we're
yeah,
building in New Braunfels. We're building one in Church below, and and
right,
and we're trying to expand outside of the state, through within the state and
absolutely,
throughout the state, because
yeah,
it is that community that when you come to it and you talk about racing, somebody's going to go, oh, and I'm going to
yeah,
get later on like, hey, do you have that guy's number? Like, or I'll just hear them talk about it, and then I'll
mhm,
go, well, hey, you want to go out?
you're right,
Oh, really? Yeah, let's call
yeah,
Chris. Warm
yeah,
handoffs,
exactly,
right? Like handing them off
absolutely,
warmly is important to that. So tell
yeah.
me, tell me what's happening with CWR this year. Because this is a big
Well,
reason why we wanted to do the podcast so you could really start highlighting stuff.
right. Well, I was hoping to have our schedule out. So a new company took over our touring series that we race at.
Hmm.
So they have not released a schedule for this year. So I can tell you when the first race is. I can't even tell you where it's going to be at. He gave me the date, but not the place yet because he wants to confirm it. But he knows that we're racing on that date. He just doesn't know where, which would be March 29th, a Saturday,
Nice.
March 29th, the day before my birthday. So I'll be 54
Oh,
years old on that race, but
another March baby. I'm a March baby too.
yeah, what day?
St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, well,
Mm,
there you go.
there you go.
So, but yeah, I mean that's a trait of us, by the way, the Aries.
Almost Aries. I'm not almost
Almost,
Aries.
yeah,
I'm
you're
on
on
the
the
cusp.
cusp, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I act
okay.
more like it.
But you should just go ahead and come to the dark side. It's good.
I'm probably already there, Chris. Trust me.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I've met you before. So, but now we're doing that. So our first race is official race is March the 29th. I am going to probably do an event on the end of this month on the 30th, but it depends on the weather. If it's freezing cold, I'm not putting nobody out there and it's freezing cold because there's a big race in Pleasanton, Texas. They're paying 10,000 to win for that race. And I would
Wow.
be the publicity behind it, I would be crazy not to go. I don't want to go because it's not part of the touring series, but I can make it a veterans event. So, because all the promoters, luckily, all the racetrack promoters have gotten on board, even if they didn't like me, which there's several of the racetrack promoters that don't like me. So, after 30 years, I may have ruffled some feathers here or there. But even the ones that don't like me, they still support the cause, and they support me because I am consistent with my businesses, and they know what we're doing with these veterans is the right thing to do. And so they still support me 100%, and CWR Warriors. So it's awesome.
Are they all, is the circuit all in Texas?
Yes, it is. It's all pretty much in the South Texas region. That way, which that's what works so good, is that is Pleasanton, Corpus Christi, and then we got Edna, Texas. Let's see, and then we got Page, Texas, which it's all in a within a radius that even if my veterans can't get there, I can get them there.
Yeah.
So it makes it good for us. They're trying to expand it out to Waco, and the promoter, the first thing he says to me, because he knows he is 100% on board with this thing. It's ODS. It's T-shirts on demand. They have a big T-shirts company there in San Antonio, but he was already sponsoring CWR Warriors before he ever took this series over. So it
Oh,
made it to transition from this to CW Warriors really easy, and he's going to have us on, in his merch booth and everything else. So, and
oh wow.
he's already built a store for us, an e-store, and he is not taking any profits out of it whatsoever. 100%
Wow.
goes to CWR Warriors. Anything ordered from CWR Warriors off our website, they do it on demand for us, and they send us the profits.
Oh
Period.
wow. That's pretty nice of
They
them.
they they don't take anything, zero. And I tried getting him to, because I'm a capitalist, so I believe that you got to make money to support everybody. And he goes, "This is not going to break me." So I said, "Okay." But he did it, and so anything on our website you see T-shirts on demand, or they supported 100%. It was all their brainchild. They did it, and so but by him taking the series over, it made it real easy for us to know and work together on how to get these veterans to the racetrack. So
Yeah,
he's
that's the so when if some veterans go to watch the race, do they get a discount, or is it just
they pay
depends on
zero.
they
They
pay
pay
zero.
zero. They
There
pay
you go.
zero,
That's a good discount.
and I have yes, that's a pretty good discount, because that's part of the mission, and the racetracks, like I said, have worked with me 100% on this, and you know, we still pay the racetracks if we're over a certain amount of guys, because they can't go backwards either.
Right.
It's still a business for everybody. And because of my business background, I respect that 100%. I
Yeah.
never ask any company to give me something that's going to hurt their company.
Yes.
And
I
because it doesn't make sense, because you can't help if you're not around. And
yeah.
so I attack it at that approach. But like I said, the veterans, the only thing that they've got to do is they have to come to have come to a event here at their shop. So we want you in the shop also, and then you get the racetrack stuff, that follows it. And the
Okay.
reason we do that, because if I could, oh, I'm going to pay for every veteran to go into the racetrack. I get a call for 900 veterans because they wanted to go spend the night, at the racetrack, which is fine, but I got to know, in advance.
Well,
Come into the shop, work with us, and even if you don't participate at the races, that's fine. But come and sit at our round table at our shop, because we have a big table in the middle of the shop, and a lot of times we work on the race cars. Most of the time we sit around the round table and we talk, and the talk has gone from babies and kids to needing jobs to political and I generally never host the conversation. It's not, the guys do
wow.
it. The veterans, they get in there, and just to hear their perspectives of what they go through. We have an 86-year-old veteran that he is in our CW Warriors, and then we have to see the different wars, right? And to watch them talk to each other. And they're not nice to each other, by the way. They tell the truth, you know.
They're nice. You don't understand that it's the terms of endearment. Like yeah,
Exactly.
civilians are usually in shock and we're like, oh, they like us.
Oh, bless your heart. Yeah. But no, it's fun to watch, right? And a lot of these guys, like we got a guy double amputee, and he is hands down one of the most hands-on guy that I met. He comes out to the races every week. He gets down on his prosthetics, he bends them in half and he gets on his knees and works on the race car, and with
Oh,
his
he was at your
prosthetics.
event, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I met
Travis
him.
Green. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
He
yeah.
was over
So
by the truck. He was giving us a tour of the truck that you
yeah.
guys raffled
So
off.
yeah, he drank way too much at that event. So
Oh,
but that's
yeah.
that's Travis, so and I didn't let him go home. He stayed with us. So because we stayed another night at the event. So but I tease him we sat down after the event. He goes, and I was complaining. And I said, my feet hurt. And he goes, mine don't. I just shut up. What do? You can't complain anymore.
There is an advantage to the disadvantage. I mean,
Right. Yeah. But
that is
that
awesome.
guy, yeah, that guy's in pain 24/7. And
Right.
and we're really working with a lot of different people trying to help him get out of the pain, and he's a Marine and he's very stubborn. So to
Mm-hmm.
get him to go into some treatments or do different things, he's like, no, I don't need that. Okay, well, what do you need? What do you want? So that's the hard part about what we do. And Donna, that is we can lead them and push them in a direction, but until they're ready or it's their time, they're not going to do it.
Yes.
And the only thing you can do is sit back and pray for them and hope that they come around. It really is at that point, and it sucks because I'm not a hope person. I'm a, go get it done. Let's do it now. Let's finish it. But at that point, that's all we can do. We can feed them information and hope to God they hear it, and just move forward. So I
That
promise you, I've learned more than I've given them.
that you made up a very, very important point that I think the civilian audience doesn't necessarily maybe see or aware of, is that there is a lot of programming out there for veterans. There's
Mhm.
over 45,000 nonprofits
Absolutely.
nationwide, right? And we know that
Absolutely.
that number is always changing, and there are people that start and stop, and there's good ones and there's bad ones and there's big ones and there's small ones and everything, but there is something. The problem that I see, and this is coming from my background, I was a nurse in the military and I was a clinical case manager at a headquarters level at the end of it. And so I worked with all the Guard and Reserve and all their units across the entire US, helping them as part of a team, helping them get the medical care that they needed. Because a lot of people don't realize, like when the Guard and Reserve come home and they're off orders and then they're feeling their aches and pains, the military won't cover it unless they're on orders. So we were trying to solve this problem on the Air Force side. So, anyways, there's a lot of resistance that happens through that journey, right? Like I don't think I'm as bad as I am. I don't know how many times I've heard, you know, they're getting diagnosed with PTSD like 5 or 8 years later after, and it's usually the wife or the partner or whoever going, hey, like keeping a loaded gun under your pillow is not normal. Like that's just not normal. And I say that and we kind of laugh, but the reality is like they don't actually associate what they're doing because that
Right.
is how they're trained. And you're
Absolutely.
deployed, that's probably, I mean, they can't carry cocked weapons under
Right.
the pillow, but they are on alert. They do have their weapons. They do carry hot. They do, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, how many times have you gone to lunch in a chow hall and have a clearing barrel right outside of it? Does that happen at, Cracker Barrel or
Yeah.
yeah, that doesn't happen there, right? We got a clearing barrel before you walk in there, right?
Right.
So we are it's training, right? But it doesn't work when you come back to the civilian world. And they don't recognize that initially until somebody is saying, hey, this is, you're acting different, you're angry outbursts, you're this, you're that. And after a while, when they hear it enough, then they're like, okay, what's going on? And sometimes it's not until after they've lost their family, when it gets that late in the game. So when
Yeah.
you see these people and the big round table, that big round table is more effective than some of
Mhm.
the a therapy. And the reason why it's because it's what you need to get them over there. You need to
Absolutely.
have the environment that you're creating and the culture that you're creating to give them the courage to go, maybe it wouldn't be so bad if I talk to somebody.
Right. And that's what we're trying to do here is that, and every veteran is different on their approach, but what I've been told from my guys and the ones that stay and the ones that come is they love cars, they love racing, and they thought it would be a great opportunity to come hang out with some cool guys.
Yep.
That's the point. That's it.
And that's all it should
And
be.
and everything else is organic.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else from that point is 100% organic. I talked to him about what we got. We got the website. You can see us. Dr. Sheila's on our website, by the way. But
And who's
Dr. Sheila, the
Dr.
VR,
Sheila?
yeah,
Oh,
she's on our
yes.
website. So, but but I talked to him about these things, and I've told several of them that I know has got a bad case of PTSD, but they're functioning PTSD, and
Right.
and so you're right. I talked to their wives, and their wives like, "Oh my God, please, Chris, convince them." All like, I can't convince anybody to do anything, but I've told them straight out, and they all have insurance, and Dr. Sheila takes insurance. I told them straight out, look, let's talk to them together. I'll go in with you. I'll walk in there, and I don't know they don't want to share it with anybody, some of their experiences, because they're
True.
scared it's going to mess them up, mess the other person up too. So that's one of their real fears. That's why they don't talk to their wives.
Yes.
That's why they don't talk to they'll talk
Or
to
their
me. They'll talk to
Mhm.
me because I'm not associated with their wives sometimes. It's a real fear.
And then vice versa too. You don't want to bring that, and the
Right.
husbands too. You don't want to bring that home because home is safe. Home is the place to relax. And if
Yeah.
you're going to bring home that mess, that trauma, then you're just
Right.
creating another place that doesn't feel like, now you put weight on them that they just don't
I
need to
can
carry.
I I'm gonna be honest with you. Until Dr. Sheila, EMDR, my wife, I was so anti any of that shit. I said, nope, you ain't doing it. I ain't doing it. It ain't happening. And my wife had a massive, PTSD
Mhm.
with her mother. And she's gonna kill me for doing this on this. But at the end of the day, she went 5 times, 4 or 5 times to Dr. Sheila. She has no problems anymore with her mother. She may
Right.
have problems with me still.
She's going back for that. Don't worry.
No, no, no. See, like I said, I see it. No, no. But it was hands down one of the most affordable things I've ever had to experience. I didn't pay for it, she did, but I was like, how much does this cost? And then I did the math on the piece that it created. I think at the time she did it, I think 5 years ago or 6 years ago
Hmm.
with Dr. Sheila. And I think we only paid $600.
Hmm.
And and she's been at peace ever since.
And for veterans, it's covered under and TRICARE and stuff. And just for the audience, so people are like, Dr. Sheila, who's all that?
Sorry.
So no, that's okay. Local, she's a psychologist. I think it's LMT is her letters. I hope I'm not messing that up.
Yeah,
But she specializes in EMDR. And EMDR, for the audience, if you're not sure what that is, they basically use eye movement to, and I'm saying this in very loose terms, there's a lot more
right.
to it, but they use eye movement to kind of distract the brain to allow you to unlock the memory, but not have that whole physical response. And then somehow through magical, it's not magical, but somehow through the
It's to
EMDR,
me.
I know, they help you resolve that trauma. Here's the thing, you don't have to actually verbally talk about the trauma. It's all
Right.
like they talk you through it on what they need you to do. And the whole time you're either following like a finger or a hand or a watch or something like, and then no, it's not hypnosis. They're not hypnotizing you. You're distracting the brain. That's the lightest terms. There's a way more to it than that.
And it's all the neural links that we,
Yes, the
that we have
neural links.
created. It's
Correct.
all the neural links that we created that were wrong. And that's what PTSD, a
And
neural
it,
link that is wrong.
yeah, that's not on the right pathway. And the cool thing, Dr. Sheila, she is, and if you look her up, it's actually Sheila McHenry, but we call her Dr. Sheila. She is one of the last people that was actually trained by the founder, which is Francis Shapiro. So that's kind of cool. And so she was the
That is
founder of
cool.
EMDR.
And I did not know that.
But
So that's awesome.
here's the fun fact story. Now I think this is true. No, I don't need the audience coming back on me, tell me that's all a lie when you Google it. But from what I read, my understanding is that Dr. Shapiro noticed that when she was working through a problem, she would go walking and watch her feet, and her eyes were like following her feet.
Ah,
And that is what started, I'm sure there's a lot more to it, but that is kind of what started that journey into
well,
EMDR.
that is cool. That is cool.
Mm-hmm.
See, learn something new. But
There you go.
now,
So,
so that's yeah. So it's really like I said, I was so anti PTSD to come back
mm-hmm.
to where we were at. I was so anti PTSD, and now today, with very little training, I can see PTSD from a mile and a half away, and
So,
it's crazy.
yes.
And I can see it in civilians or
Oh,
anybody, and it's. I was with a veteran, and we were talking about, because he's not out yet. He's not a veteran. He's active duty. He's 21 years active duty, and we were talking about one of my injuries and one of my accidents that I've had over the years. And when I realized that it was PTSD that was controlling some of my pain, which it was crazy in my own brain. And this was just recently. It wasn't, within the last couple of years. And by talking him through the PTSD stuff, he goes, it makes so much sense. And he realized that he was creating his own pain and injuries that he was feeling in through the
yeah.
PTSD. And it's amazing what PTSD can cause for you. It's not always just a nightmare or always just this PTSD.
Mm-mm.
I can tell you this, to this day, from that one accident that I have, a car T-boned me. And from this day, if I get started on or hear a horn, I it's neural. I mean, my whole body, it's just like a shock treatment. And it to this day. Now, do I deem it, as a man? Do I deem it worthy of going to, you know, get fixed? No, I don't, because I know what the background is.
Mm-hmm.
And now, if my background would have been from seeing something that I shouldn't have seen, I would have already gotten it fixed. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah. Well, the
but
reason
that's
why
that's a man thinking, right?
that is
That's
a man,
the
because
guy
I
that
was,
pride and
because
stuff. So
I know what your wife is thinking, and she's like, mm-hmm, so let me just call Dr. Sheila right now and see what we can do.
tap, tap, tap.
but
Yeah,
but
no,
you make some points that, I'm going to bring it back to the CWR Warriors, and what you're doing is you got the big round table and a car, right?
yeah,
And you're bringing them to the round table, and it's not like, okay, today's topic's going to be, it's none of that. You're just going to get
no,
around the table, have a cup of coffee, we rattle on what we got to fix with the car. And let
right,
me ask this, when you bring the veterans in, let's say somebody comes in and is like, I like cars, but dude, I can't even like tie my shoe without it. How
right. Well,
should I come to this? Is there any benefit?
absolutely, and it doesn't matter any type of background. I don't care, because the car itself, I can teach you any part of that car. inside and out. I am considered, after this many years, I'm considered a master at my craft.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you want to know, I tease everybody all the time. You want to know what the flux capacitor does in my race car? I'm going to show you. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to show you, and then we're going to do it together. And, like I this year, we're going to hold clinics on tire prep for racetracks. Okay. I'm going to bring guys, veterans in, and I'm going to teach them how to prep a tire for a race. And believe it or not, we spend almost as much time prepping our tires properly to go race for 10 minutes than we do working on a race car. So we're going to prep. We got a tire prepping station here at the shop. We have a paint booth. And at the race shop, I have a list of stuff we've got to do. And if you want to put your name beside that for the racetrack, then that's your job. But when we get to the racetrack, everybody's got a duty.
Yeah.
And if your duty is sitting on your butt and masterminding the flux capacitor, I don't care. But we're gonna have something to do when we get to the racetrack. If your job is to go watch the racetrack and tell me who's doing good, we're gonna have something to do at the racetrack.
That's good. So there's room for everybody.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, video we got video, I'm gonna have protection this year because there's a lot of mean guys out there. Just but no, there is something for everybody to do. And if nothing else, if you got one competitive bone in your body, you're going to enjoy yourself.
Yeah. And this is not limited to just guys. I mean, I know you probably hear us talking.
No.
Do you have any women at the table or?
Absolutely. We've had a couple and they scare the guys.
Good.
No, but we have had a couple Air Force. It's amazing how the Air Force veterans come out and support us. So you can, if you go on to CWWarriors.org, you can see a lot of pictures of a lot of different veterans, a lot of different people. So you'll see a lot of the same faces too. So
yeah, that's what
really,
it is. It's growing the culture, right? It just takes, and I think one thing I want the audience to understand is like, you will see lots of nonprofits, and you'll see on this podcast that I interview lots of different people and lots of different nonprofits and lots of different things, right? But the one thing we all have in common is trying to get the veteran to engage. So it doesn't matter what modalities you're doing the racing. I do veteran breakfast. I do informational events. Heck, I got a crocheting class starting by a guy that looks like he should be a member of ZZ Top. It is awesome, right? And it's going to be at a brewery / coffee shop. I mean, like, how much cooler can you get, right? And he's like, I want more guys there because to show them that that's something that they can do with their hands. That's like relaxing and, that kind of thing. I've got a sound wellness class starting, and I say this because these are all different modalities, right?
Right. And that's the one thing about humans is we're all different.
Yes. And what works for you is not going to necessarily work for someone else. And that is okay. You might be shocked to say like crocheting, whatever, and then get there and like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's rhythmic and it's just tying knots essentially, like over and over with a hook, and then you might find that rhythm that works for you. You might go to a sound wellness class and find that speaks to you and it works for you. All of it's okay. It's our time to explore. We gave our time, we gave our service, we gave everything up to our lives if we're coming back here, right? So now we should
take advantage of everything that all the nonprofits have to offer. Fishing, hunting, crocheting, whatever. It doesn't matter one of the guys we had here, he came a couple of times, and believe it or not, I met him at Applebee's. He'll know who I'm talking about now that where I said I met him. But
Hmm.
he came in and he had just got out of the Air Force, and he's IT. Nothing. He could care less about what we are doing. It did not thrill him really at all, but the conversation did.
Yeah.
And he was struggling with a job, and we had a guy there that was an IT guy, one of our board members, and he said, "Hey, well, apply with me." And that's all it took to give him that confidence. He didn't take the job, but within 2 weeks he had a job, and he had been, out of the military for a couple months, and he had no direction,
Yep.
and I we had a guy come in, and Travis Green actually got him a job with a lawyer, because he was a lawyer and he was passing the bar and he needed a job. Travis Green goes, "Well, I know this guy." Boom, he got a job, and it's just, and
Yeah.
all at that round table, and it's not round, it's square, by the way, a
Ah,
rectangle.
the magical
But
square table.
yeah, but at the same time, we are all different, Donna, and they're if we could get every veteran in our audience out there, if you have a veteran that you know of, whether they're doing great, whether they're wealthy or poor, or they live under a bridge, I don't care. Tell them about all the different nonprofits that they can go and have a good time at.
Bring
Because
them.
we don't. I don't care how much money you got when you walk through the door of this. This is for y'all. I'll come and
Yep.
enjoy it. You know what I mean? And that's how I try to present it to everybody. And I'm good at it sometimes, and I'm really bad at it other times. But I try to present it just as this is for everybody. I had a, I was going to hire a lady and to do my fundraising for me, and she says, "You need to do this, and you need to ask these guys to fill out this paperwork and these stats and this stats and this says." I said, "Ma'am, do you know anything about a veteran?" "Oh yeah, I've been with this for company for this." And I said, "They do all that?" And she, "Yeah, yeah, we got this down." I was like, "Well, I sure like to know how they do it." And I said, "So what's that company doing today?" She said, "Oh, we shut it down." I'm like, "Okay."
Ah, there you go. Yeah, keep it
Because
simple. Like
yeah, yeah,
we don't have to
yeah.
make this complicated.
No, only thing we can do is try to give a future of where we're headed, what our plans are in the future. And I really would love to build a wellness center to where the guys can come and do the PMF mats. I don't know if you're familiar with those,
I've
but
heard of them.
basically it regrounds you, puts you back to earth, and you can do, you got neural training that you can do with the goggles and different things with lights and stuff, and I want everybody to understand that when we do it here at CW Warriors, either I've been through it myself or my wife does it. It's not we're not trying to throw something out there
Oh,
that we
oh,
don't know the effects of.
when you
So
recommend something,
when
yeah,
I
if something,
recommend something or
yeah,
someone, and if you go on our website, everybody on the stem cell side of it has been vetted, or I've been to them. The psychologist, my wife or me have been to them. So it's not we're not just throwing stuff out there. We're
right.
really trying to give back to the community. But a hyperbaric chamber,
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of work with the cells, because that's what creates everything. And then the cells turn into the neural link, and the neural link is what controls everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I doing it personally for myself. Me and my wife started this about 11 years ago when she had 7 heart attacks,
Oh my
and
gosh.
why? That my question is why?
Mm,
I don't give a crap that you had 7 heart attacks. Why?
right.
If a doctor can't tell me why, you're fired, you know, and that's the way I look at it. So we went the holistic route, 11 years ago, literally 11 years, because in by doing that, we've got hyperbaric chamber therapy, PMF mats therapy. We do sauna, we do the cold plunge. We have all that at our location here. And so I want to build a wellness center to where it's a one-stop shop. We have the psychiatrist, we have, the all the supplements,
Hmm.
everything in one spot. And we have an urgent care, we have a gym, we have the hyperbaric chambers, we have all that, and we have the race shop behind all of it. Like I said, the catalyst has always got to be there. And that way, in 10 years from now, someone else is running this, it's all self-contained,
Yeah.
you know. And I'm going to bring other companies in to join us in this, to where it doesn't go broke. Because the
Yeah.
reason companies go broke, and any company and any nonprofit, is they start renting buildings, they start having debt. And when I don't mind having debt as long as it's cash flowing. And most nonprofit debt does not cash flow.
No,
It's just
it
it's
goes
just debt.
in and back out.
In and back out, in and out, in and out. I mean, the more, and so if you build a company around CW Warriors, and that I can hand off to everybody, because I got all the procedures in place. I got everything that built the company. I got the board right. And that's a whole nother subject. The board's hard to
Hmm.
get, right? So if we can build this, CW Warriors can live on. If we can't build this, or you can't build that, it doesn't move on.
Right.
And that's my goal right now, is to build a nonprofit and a company side by side that will work with each other. And that way it will always be funded and always get there. And because I won't be able to fund it forever, because I'm not going to live forever. So,
Kind of like Grunt Style, right? That's what they
right.
did. They did a
Hmm.
nonprofit they started with a t-shirt business. I mean, a clothing business. And then
Right.
that funds their nonprofit, right? So it's
Exactly.
all enclosed, right? So
And
that's a
and CW Warriors is kind of unique, because the race car not only can, when we're crowdfunding or funding, we can give back, because we can use it as marketing and advertising. Because
yeah.
it is a race, it is televised. So everything that goes on that car also is subject to $1. So it is easily, can be turned into a company, because I tell all my donors, I said, so do you want to be on the car, or do you want to donate? Because if you're on the car, it depends on where they're at during the business cycle, right? Okay, I
Right.
need to donate money, because at the end of the year, I got to donate money because for this. But throughout the year, I'd rather that to be advertising, and CW Warriors can do that for a company.
Oh,
So
that's nice.
it makes it a little unique to most nonprofits, because we do have a marketing platform.
I
So
think that, this is a great setup and you're masterminding behind it. You're always looking ahead. And so like to see like what's the coming year? Well, the coming year is the races that are coming up,
right,
and more focus on that and working with the veterans and getting more of the veterans in there is that focus. But you already have those long-term goals, right? Like, hey,
right.
then in the next 5-10 years, I actually want this happening. So you're always looking forward, which makes that success rate for legacy much, much higher, right?
Absolutely. And we're going to have, I I can tell you this, that we're going to have 25 shop days. We're going to have 25 shop days here in the shop, and we're going to have 10 races.
Nice.
So, that's the events that we already got on the calendar that we're going to have, that's going to come out. So, and we're have another company that's talking about doing a gala for us. And, and then we'll have our normal car show, and then we'll do 12 events leading up to that car show. So we're probably going to be pushing another of 50 events this year. We did 65 last year, which
Oof.
was, it kicked me in my butt, because I lost more money than, because I put 100% focus on CW Warriors, which now we're better streamlined. We have a better way to go with it. And so we're gonna dial it back, because it's just like every event, just like the breakfast, you watch them fade in and fade out, fade in and fade out. Okay, so what do we cut back to where we make more quality events, and that's what we did. And
Yeah.
like I said, that calendar is going to come out hopefully by the end of this month, if not by the end of February. So we'll have
That'll be game
the
on
dates.
then. Yeah.
It's that's what's fun about it. And so I love it. I really do. So it's definitely one of, in my opinion, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And that's building
Saying a
this.
lot considering your background.
It is, and it's because like I said, I can't fix this with net income. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what I do. I can't fix this with net income.
Gotta
It
have
takes boots on the
passion.
ground.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
You
good
got to have the
passion.
passion. You got to have the boots on the ground. And
Hmm.
if I could fix it with net income helps get you to another level, but it definitely does not build a nonprofit. So
Well, I think, oh, sorry, I got totally distracted here. My
no problem.
phone decided to ring. I
Okay.
mistakenly answered it there.
Oh,
So, all right, I know. Fortunately it's my buddy. I'll be like, sorry, you were on the
that'll make a fun
podcast for 3
podcast.
seconds.
Yeah. It'll make a fun podcast. You should answer. Oh, sorry. I forgot I was in the middle of podcast.
It was Sterling. You know him.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I sent him some business the other day from a friend of mine, and they used him, and they loved his company. So
He's
it's
a good
awesome.
guy. I'll tell you, him and I work together too. We do. He just jumped in and said, I want to help you. I like what you're doing. I'm like, okay. And so, yeah, him and I
Yeah,
mastermind all the time. So it's what it takes. It takes the community to come together and just be there and support. And, for the audience, I think we'll wrap it up this way is that Chris and I are talking about CWR Warriors and what they were doing and the car racing. And if you're in the local greater San Antonio area, or heck, even if you're just in town visiting and you want to go check it out, well, heck, you can reach out to Coming Home Well and they'll get a hold of me. And I live here, so I'll bring you up. I don't care. But get out there, go check it out. If you love racing, that obviously is a great way to go. But what I wanted you to see also was what goes on behind these scenes. Like you see this, like you go to the car show and you see all the cars and it looks all pretty and they had a band playing there and it was all good. The passion and the work that goes on behind the scenes, it's like the whole analogy of the iceberg. You're seeing the tip, that's what you're walking around on, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that's keeping that thing afloat. There's a
oh
lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
work, and it's people like you, Chris, that you have no background, but you are a dependent of a veteran. You saw your dad and all the struggles that he went through, and you wanted to give back to that and honor that. And because of that, plus compiled with all your background, CW Warrior, CWR Warrior exists and it's doing these incredible things at a big level, but all the way down to the person at the square table, right? The person
right.
sitting there,
Absolutely.
and that is where the focus is. No matter how much beautiful marketing you can do, because you can make things look amazing,
Right.
are they being effective? And I can just assure you that I get lots of reach outs for requests to come on the podcast, and I do look at that stuff, and
Absolutely.
I can usually read the marketing and stuff and realize and look through all their stuff and kind of figure out like where they're at. Usually a phone
Right.
conversation will finish it for me, yay or nay. And I don't
Yeah.
accept everybody on a podcast. I am particular because this
Well,
podcast is to
awesome.
bring, well, it's to bring resources that are effective. That's what the
Yeah.
goal is, and anywhere, wherever they may be. But
Right.
we want people to have effective resources. And the last thing I want to do is promote something that somebody goes to and said, they didn't do anything. They weren't there. They weren't effective.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good
No,
experience or whatever.
and that's the fear of growing it, right?
Right.
With CWR Warriors, my goal is to have a warrior on every race team. So, and my thought behind it is, well, I'm not teaching them nothing. I'm not giving them any background, but they can utilize everything that CW Warriors has and go hang out with their buddies,
Yeah.
and their buddies, even if I don't have anything to do with that team at all, their buddies it will change. It'll help them,
Mhm.
and I know that because I know a car's therapeutic. I know racing is competitive and therapeutic. I know this because I don't believe that I would have ever been able to have any success in my life without my race cars. My dad took me to a BMX race when I was 8. The So from that point on, I was a racer. I raced. I
Yeah.
raced BMX bikes. All the way through. It gave me a passion, and I had one of probably the hardest learning disabilities a man can have. I have bad eyes. To be a racer and have bad eyes is crazy. I have a a disorder called nystagmus, and what it
Yeah.
is and so that nystagmus, I've learned to control it with my Neuralink and my brain, right? And so when I get behind a car, I go hyper focus. I'm able to control my nystagmus through that. But you put a book in front of me, no way. I that my those words are all over the pages. So everything that I had to learn had to be visual, had to be by talking through it and by audio. Technology caught up with me. So finally now, when I get behind a computer, I'm all about it. I take tease with you all the time. I don't check emails. Well, I don't because it gets on me and somebody goes through all my emails and they say, okay, this is what you need to focus on. But the at the end of the day, I've learned how to read over the years because of something reading to me.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't learn like a normal guy. I had a teacher, my first grade teacher, her name is Mrs. Plackey. She said, they put me in special ed, and she went to the principal and she said, this kid don't need to be here. He's got an eye problem. And they still have not diagnosed me with this eye problem yet. And so fast forward 18, 19 years because I quit school and fast forward and I went back to school, but she fast forward 19 years, she sat at the ITT Tech and said, he just needs more time to read.
Nope.
And she got me into college, same teacher.
Oh,
So yeah, exactly. So she got
thanks.
me into college. She wrote him a letter. She got me into college and electronic engineering. And so I sucked at, like I said, the studying side of it. So I paid a girl $15 an hour to do my homework.
Truth is coming out now.
No, I did. I paid him $15 an hour to do my homework. And my teacher called me into class and he says, Chris, he goes, I know she's doing your homework. I said, yeah. And he says, yeah, I can't have that. I said, why not? And he goes, well, you're not doing your homework. I said, am I though? He said, I have 100 in lab. I can do it with my hands. I can do it with my eyes sitting in front of you. I got 100%. That's all in lab. I said, I'm learning. I'm just learning from you. And I said, homework ain't teaching me crap, you know? And so he said, okay. And he, I didn't have to do homework anymore. So save me some money.
This is not an advisory to give to
No,
your
it is not
students.
an advisory way to do it, but it started my
I
entrepreneurship
get it.
because
Yes.
when it started my entrepreneurship because I was working with my hands, building sheds and with my cousins and working at bicycle shops, racing bicycles. I was making more money at that particular time in 1992 when I got out of college than I got offered after with a college degree. They
There you
offered me
go.
$12,800 with a college degree at Texas Instruments, and I was already making, I think, probably about 20,000 at that point in my life. And I said, I
Wow.
can't do that. I can't take a pay cut.
That is
So,
hilarious. Oh my gosh.
but yeah, so that's enough about me.
Well,
But
I think we'll wrap it up, but I think you just kind of gave a good example of like what we would summarize in the military as adapt and overcome, right?
you're right.
That's what
Adapt
you
and
did.
overcome. And they wouldn't let me into the military. They tried to get me there because I was a hellraiser and they wanted me to either go to jail or go to the military.
The army would have gleefully taken you.
Not back then. Back then, actually, because it's not correct. My eyes were not corrected with glasses.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
downfall. They're like minor details. Jeez Louise.
yeah. Just putting him on the front line. Yeah, but no, that's
All right. Well,
no,
any last words you got for the audience? Or words of
yeah.
advice?
Well, not any real words of advice, but I just when if you are a veteran listening to the show, look us up and look up what Donna's doing and all the resources she has and that I have. And if you have anything, reach out to us, you know.
Mhm.
And if you're a civilian and you see a buddy or a friend, reach out to us. I don't care who I talk to. I'm gonna give you what I know, and I'm sure Donna doesn't really care either. If she's
Nah.
got a resource to help you, she's gonna do it. So,
Yep.
but just get involved and you know, and one thing you cannot do is we can't fix these guys, but we can give them a place to be, you know, and then they can start working through it and we can get them in front of the right people. So, you
There you
know, and
go.
if you're frustrated with your spouse because of his PTSD or her PTSD or partner, reach out, you know, and you know,
Yeah.
our ultimate goal here is to give them a better life, and that's what you know, that's what everybody wants is a better life, you know, and it's just and your life could be good as long as your brain is functioning properly.
Agreed.
So, and
Agreed.
that's all
Agreed.
I got to say about that.
And like we told
More
you,
stuff would say,
we would not even reach 30 minutes. We went well over
yeah, told you.
because there's a lot of good information. That's why. And
Yeah.
Chris is very passionate about what he does. So I'm going to wrap it up here. And here's my last quick thoughts is that Chris kind of said it best is like, we can't fix people. That's the bottom line, but we can bring resources and we can offer support and encouragement. And I consider a lot of us in these different advocacy and nonprofit worlds, professional seed planters. We can plant lots of seeds. We can help them be strength for them to help them go where they need to go when they're a little scared to do it. Those are all the things we can do, but they have to want to do it. So we encourage you to look out for your buddies. And as we say in the military, get their six, right? And if you see somebody struggling and they are resistant, reach out to some of these nonprofits and just talk to them. They're more than willing to talk and maybe bring them someplace but go slow, right? Just take it one step at a
Absolutely.
time, meet them where they're at and keep planting those seeds. So, all
There's
right,
a lot
great.
of there's a lot of professionals out there that can help.
There
There
is
is.
absolutely. So, all right, everybody, that's the week. That's what we're putting out there from all of us here at Beyond the Frontline and our parent podcast network, Coming Home Well. We thank you. We want you guys to like, share, comment, engage, feedback. We take it all. Want us to improve? Let us know how. Think we're doing great? Give us some little pats on the backs. We like those too. Anything that will help us improve this podcast for you guys, we're all ears. So from all of us, all of you from Beyond the Frontline, we hope you have an awesome week.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Frontline, a podcast of Coming Home Well. Join us every other Wednesday. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. Thanks again. And until all are home and all are well.